But anyway, what I want to do today is every now and then, I wish I could listen to him every day, but I don't have time. I love listening to Rabbi Daniel Lapin. He's not a born-again rabbi. A lot of them are. But his teachings are amazing. He likes to go into the ancient customs of the Jews, and there's always little nuggets that I just enjoy hearing. And the other day I was listening to him, and he was talking about struggles. And I thought, that's really good. I had never heard that before in the Bible, things that he was bringing out. So I'm putting something together for up north. I'm going to be teaching in Modesto, but I really thought that I would love to share it with you. And here's why. Because in our marriages, we have struggles. I'm not talking about fights. This isn't, we go at it. That's not what it is. But there's times in our lives when God asks us to do things, and we're like, ugh. We try to ignore it, and then he'll ask us again, and then we know it's him. For me, he gives me like 3 different signs. I'm not an observant person. I've said this before. I could go in your house, and it could be filthy, and I wouldn't even notice, because that's the way I am. I'm just not observant. But some people can look around, notice all the detail, and walk out and just, oh, and she had this, and she did that. And I'm not that way. I'm just not observant. So God will do like 3 things to me, and then I'll say, okay, why did I run into that person 3 times today? Something's going on in their life. Let me talk to them. So anyway, I'm really excited. I don't have a worksheet because there's nothing for you to learn. It's just this one principle. And at the end of 20 minutes before Grace comes up, I know that you'll fully understand struggles. Most of mine didn't go on in my marriage, but in Christianity, things that God required of me, major steps that I had to take in my life that just scared the life out of me, but God was there all the way. So first of all, I wanted to mention that in the Word of God, there's 4 very interesting biblical characters. At the end of the book of Deuteronomy, Moses refers to the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, as a song. So the Torah is supposed to be sung. And Moses called it a song because when the Torah is read in the synagogue, traditionally, to this day, it's read according to a tune. So when the rabbis come out and they read the Torah to their people, they're singing it. The notes for that tune are printed at the bottom under each word in the Hebrew Bible. And Hebrew, you look at it and you're like, what is that? Because they're not letters. They're just like little dots and lines and all this stuff. But under those words is the tunes in the Hebrew Bible. So each note conveys a meaning, okay? So I want to show you a particular pattern of notes. You can go ahead and put that up. This squiggly thing that you're looking at, and it's really supposed to kind of like be not meter, but uniform on how it is. It's to draw attention to the above letter. So when the rabbi is singing it and he sees that, it's called a shalit. That word means chain in Hebrew. He knows that he has to follow it from the top to the bottom. And what happens is as he's singing that word, in his voice, he goes up and down and up and down and up and down. So the first time it was used was in Genesis 19:16. Genesis 19:16. And there's a word there, and it says, he lingers. Okay, and on this particular one, sorry, it's going to take me a minute to get to this. This is when he was talking to Lot, and he sung it. And this is the way it sounds, because the word linger is va'it mahima. So in singing it, instead of just saying va'it mahima, he would go va'it mahi ma. Do you think that would draw your attention? So let me tell you what that means, or why he put it in there. It means he suffered. That's what it means. He suffered. So it's doubling the impact of the word lingering, so that you're not just hearing it, but you're feeling it. So as the rabbi's reading it, when he does that, it makes you stop and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Somebody really suffered right here. So this particular note, we know Lot is experiencing something that can be chained to his identity. So now we know he suffered to the point that he was chained to whatever was happening to him, what God was requiring of him. So Lot now has an opportunity to decide. When that word linger came in, this is what had gone on. Lot is there in Sodom, thoroughly enjoying his life, probably in the middle of most of the sin that's going on, and here comes the angels. And the angels tell him, Lot, guess what? God's about to destroy this city. So you know what you need to do? Get out of here. Get your family and run. And right then and there, Lot has a decision. Do I stay in my little Vegas? Because that's what it was. It was like the Las Vegas of the Middle East. Or do I turn around and run? So he lingered. It was not an easy decision. You and I could sit there and go, oh, I would have taken off right away. Would you? Would you really have? We've had warning after warning after warning. People in our church, and yet they stay in their sin, not knowing that any day they can be taken. So he has to make this life decision on Lot, on Sodom. So Lot lingers. And there's the Shalshalit. He's struggling and having a little bit of a crisis. So the second time, and he made a wise decision. The second time that this Shalshalit was used was in Genesis 24. This is Abraham sending his servant Elazar to find a wife for his son. Okay? So here's the servant now. He prays, and it says in Genesis 24:12, and he said. But the musical sign is under, and he said. That word is by oxymor. And the word doesn't mean linger, but he is taking a long time. Even though the word said doesn't mean linger, God put the Shalshalit there because, once again, he wants the Jews to know somebody's suffering here. So he's struggling a lot, just like Lot did. Servants, this is what that chain, Shalshalit, tells us. So now here we are in Genesis 15:1. God's telling Abraham that he has an exceeding great reward for him and his descendants. But he has no heirs, only his servant, which is Salazar. So that means that God's reward is going to go straight from Abraham straight to Salazar, because there are no inheritance. He hasn't had his son. So now, years later, chapters later, he now has a son. Abraham has his son, but his son's not married, doesn't have children, and here's his servant, and he's telling him, okay, my son's an adult now, go find him a wife so he can have children, so that he can have my inheritance. And so here he is, Eleazar, the servant to Abraham, and he's torn. He's telling himself, if I don't go, chances are this guy's not going to get married because there's no women here for him, and the inheritance will be split between him and I, and my kids will get a big portion of it because he won't have children and there won't be anyone to carry it on. But if I do go and bring him back a wife, now he's going to have children and I have nothing. Now, I know we could sit here and go, well, it's not a big deal. It wasn't his anyway. But you have to remember all the years that he served Abraham like a son. He was right next to him, doing everything with him and for him. And then he had his son. Now he's doing everything for his son and Abraham. But on the back of his mind, he's thinking, I'm going to get a part of the inheritance. But now all of a sudden, Abraham says, go find him a wife so that he can have children. And he's struggling. So there's times when you've struggled knowing the right thing to do, but you've still struggled with God, or am I the only one? Okay. So during those times, we feel like we're being pulled in two different directions. And so Eleazar really finds out who he is. So he's a man of faith. He found out that he was faithful to Abraham, and he was faithful to God. So it was a struggle on each of the 4 times in the Torah. When that sign shows up on a word, it shows that a person's going through a horrible personal struggle to find out who he is and who he was. That's when you become who you are. Now, there's just 2 of them. I have 2 to go. But right now I want to tell you something. Sometimes you have to make decisions against your own children. Sometimes you have to make decisions against your own husband. And it really, really hurts. And you're like, whoa, this is a biggie. Sometimes you have to tattle on your own family when they're not doing right. Sometimes you have to tattle on somebody that you love, your best friend, something that they're going through or they've done. All of us have had really, really hard decisions that we've had to make in life. But you feel that little conviction going on inside of you, and God's saying, give it up, give it over. I'm just going to quickly, I don't want to take a lot of time, but it was like the Unabomber. It was his brother that turned him over. It was his brother's wife that kept saying, that guy sounds like your brother. Your brother's a nut. And not just that handwriting, because they had a sample of his handwriting, that looks like your brother's handwriting. And she kept saying, I think that's your brother. And he kept saying, it's not my brother, it's not my brother. And finally he went to the police, and there were all these stipulations. Don't shoot him, because you know how you'll see different things happen, like in Waco. I'm not putting down policemen. I'm just saying there's times when they start shooting and then they go, well, who shot for, well, what happened? Well, I shot because he shot. He had all these stipulations, nobody shoot. And I think he even went on the property and waited till his brother was captured. That was a hard decision for him to do that, but he did it. And this is the kind of stuff we're talking about here. Okay, number 3, the third time was Joseph, who is being seduced by Potiphar's wife. She wasn't subtle. She was incredibly attractive, extremely attractive. Here's a man who loved his family. He was thrown into, his brothers were jealous of him. They threw him in a pit. Here comes, a caravan, and they decided, let's just sell him and make some money off of this. This guy is carried into slavery, and finally he gets out. He's there with the Pharaoh. He's now living high off the hog, has everything he wants except sex from this woman who's Potiphar's wife. So he has to tell himself, if I sleep with her, oh man, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a gay old time. If I don't sleep with her, she's going to make trouble for me. And all of a sudden we see the little shallot. And what does that mean, girls? There's a struggle going on. So, in Genesis 39:8, it says, he refused her. And what do we see under refuse? A little shallot. He said no, even though his body was saying yes. That word refuse in Hebrew is bayam-i. So when the rabbis are singing it, they're saying bayam-i. So everyone sitting out there knows, uh-oh, this guy really had a hard time. It was a struggle because it's a struggle. He wanted her, but he said to himself, I can't. Finally, he recognized who he was. That's when he really knew who he was because of the struggle. Joseph's greatness was launched from that moment on. The moment you are struggling with something and you do the right thing, God's greatness is launched into your life. The fourth time used, the final instance in this is Moses. Okay, it was time for Moses to install his brother Aaron. And what had happened was that God kept telling Moses to go before Pharaoh. He didn't want to. He said, I can't talk. I'm not as good as this person over here. Let somebody else talk. I'm not going to do it. So God finally, after much arguing, told him, okay, don't go. I'm going to send Aaron. So now the moment's come that Aaron has to be installed as a high priest. And all of a sudden, he's sitting there going, whoa, that hurts. He's now going to do the part that I'm supposed to do. Has anyone ever done the part that you were supposed to do? Or am I the only one? I naturally, I don't know if it's from my childhood or the workings of my flesh, but I'm just naturally a jealous person. So whenever I would see somebody else getting something on the inside, my stomach would turn. I'd go, God, life is just so unjust. Anything that happened to me as a child, everything was so unjust. So I can just imagine how he felt. And when I got saved, God said, you can do away with that now because the playing field is even. Totally even. It doesn't make any difference what sex you are. It doesn't make any difference what color you are, whether you have money or you don't. You're on a fair playing field now, so you can stop with the jealousy. So it says in God's word that the installation or implies was very slow. And once again, we see the shashalik in Exodus 4. So we saw it in Lot leaving Sodom. We saw it in Joseph being true to his beliefs and rejecting the Pharaoh's wife. We saw it in Eleazar of Damascus, and now we see it in Moses. And each time it was liberating. So the struggle's not the problem. Sometimes we go through struggles in life and we're ashamed of the struggle. Don't be ashamed of the struggle. God knows we're human. Be ashamed if the outcome is not what God asked you to do. So the struggle makes you stronger if you just slide casually through it. Each of us do have struggles, and it makes us as we work this out. So who am I? I'm a child of God. I'm faithful to His Word. No shame in the struggle, because the struggle is going to make you and me stronger, and it's going to make us greater. And I'm not talking about fighting with your husband. This is a struggle between you and God. So the struggle is what the word chain, and that's what that's called. It's a chain, is about. We are chained to our struggles. They're there. They hurt. We remember them. Let them go. Don't be bitter against God. Don't be bitter against other people. This is part of our walk with God.